Hello, James Polk here. I have been working on this multifaceted contract paralegal business for several years now. I have a tech entity, a contract paralegal entity, a holding trust, a utility trust, and then an LLC. And I've just started a nonprofit and putting them together in an LP. Praxis Professional Foundation Incorporated is professional nonprofit aimed at becoming a tax-exempt charity. We are limiting it to conservative Trinitarians, people who can sign a statement of faith, because we are doing this element of crime victims advocacy, where we advocate for the victims of sex trafficking to go through conservative biblical counseling rather than psychiatry. My belief is that the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, as it's progressed, has just picked up more and more elements of anti-traditional ways of viewing God as not part of the equation, and just the rules of right and wrong of revealed truth given to us by God in the Bible, as they view the Bible as the problem almost. So, without being just like anti-scientific, and that's what it's called. That's what people call us. It's not what I think of it. It's that it's the morality element of we have psychological issues when we break God's law, because that's how we're created. So going through biblical counseling is what I really truly feel that victims, both juvenile and adult, need after having been victimized by sex traffickers. So I don't think it's the right thing to do to open up this soft space when people are going through the trauma of having been abused like that, to say, oh, come this way and be transgender, or like, oh, that means you're gay. Well, someone just like somehow is in a state of mind where they listen to that, rather than you telling them the reality that God created them male or female for procreation, for family, and that's how the kingdom of God works. Obviously, it's an argument in culture. So I put some other different YouTube conversational resources on here about where some of these jumping off points come from. My studies as a religion major in college at California Lutheran University, which is sponsored by the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Something I got into without knowing what the ELCA was. I didn't know that it was a group that was formed by joining a group that existed already and was a little more liberal directed, and a group that got themselves expelled from the college. The professors got expelled from the seminary. In 1974, Synod President Preuss did a fact-finding commission and determined what was being taught. The seminary president was letting the seminary professors teach their quote-unquote academic conscience, and it was just outside the lines of what the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod teaches. I was baptized Lutheran Church Missouri Synod as a 16-year-old. Considering myself a man at 14, 15, I don't consider that to be a juvenile decision. I took my brother and sister that direction. We were all three baptized on the same day. We're all 5 years apart, and I'm the oldest. So maybe they didn't make their full own adult decision, but it's something they wanted to do at the time. I don't think they embrace it the same way I do, but I believe there's a reality in it, and so I still see myself as the God-given, God-ordained leader in our family in the conservative Christian direction. We've had a lot of different things happen, and people have been through their situations where their answers have come out as, less shockingly right-wing than mine. And so I stick to my guns. It doesn't always help me in my friend and family network, professional networks, the people. I can't even call it a network always, the people, because it's just I've parted ways with a lot of people. I don't use antagonistic speech patterns. I think I did for a while When I was in the Marine Corps Reserves, I know that I was not speaking in a compassionate and gentle fashion as a proper Christian should. So this is what we're doing. We're drawing a line of what we're not. We're not woke. We're not liberal. I don't believe that the Bible didn't talk about what's in the Bible is in the Bible without there being a context of their. One of the things the ELCA does kind of teach is that there were not same-sex committed relationships in Greco-Roman times. And what was being talked about was pederasty and bacchanals, and I think that's. I don't think it's borderline disingenuous. I think it's disingenuous, but I think it's very subtle, and so I have a hard time talking about that because I worked for our systematic theology professor at a church. I was a departmental assistant in the religion major. A lot of this stuff didn't sit well with me, and I drank for the first time when I was 20, and it became the thing. Like, I was doing theology and writing these papers that were progressive and woke and whatnot, but there was always an element of I couldn't fit 100% of the topics I was talking about into a left-leaning framework, and I always felt some type of way. People who are former problem drinkers like me. It's been more than half of a decade since I've drank, but I know that it was a thing I did as a drinking solution. I had a way I felt inside that I deal with differently. I read more. You know, I'm not going to develop a God complex about having compassion on all people for this, that, the other thing. I just think people are wrong and they choose choices and their choices are error. God is God, I am not, but it is kind of a thing where I have to admit that the more conservative interpretation of view is it holds the water that the left wing doesn't. And so that's the direction I'm taking my law work, and it's a thing to support ministry, people who do biblical counseling, and also youth ministries that want to help kids on juvenile probation. I had this aim at using neutral language for a while to try to elicit people who were in the more progressive groups to want to do the same thing so that we could see the community service project for kids on juvenile probation so that we can see that the classical criminology solution is really the universal middle ground between us, and that people in the left-leaning churches and people in the conservative churches all aren't going to tell a kid, oh yeah, it's the government's fault and you should definitely blame the government rather than take responsibility for your own actions yourself. But that has proved to be untrue. Just in the media you see it. So before the thing really got going with any much, other than some of my friends who were progressive leaning, but then they themselves have said that the ELCA has gone entirely social justice warrior and woke rather than focusing on the initial divergent topics of teaching between the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and what became the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which even that I'm on the conservative side and the LCMS side of that. I really like the Lutheran Congregations in Mission for Christ. So for me, it's a reality of law work is not ever going to be something that does not deal with the innermost sanctums of the hearts of men and the deepest thoughts and philosophical structures of our worldviews. So of course my religion is inside of my law work. This isn't a passing phase where it's like, oh, this is a religious thing. No, that's what the First Amendment is. It's your First Amendment and your Sixth Amendment together is us talking about our rights to stand up, our constitutionally recognized limitation of our government against infringing on our rights to represent ourselves and to have someone represent us and to express our sincerely held religious belief systems. And so this is it. I think kids are being abused, and I think after being abused, they're being abused more by the religion that's enforced on us in society, in our works, if there are secular jobs, that we have to somehow accept and abide by people's wrong views of themselves by addressing them with pronouns that indicate that they think that the way they are created is not how they actually are. Um, so to do that, I have had to create a religious organization, but it's not for a specific religious activity purpose. It's for professional law purpose. But that's what nonprofit incorporation does, is gives you your specific religious language within your professional purpose. So you can read the initial statement of purpose in the article of incorporation below this video. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I definitely am not trying to get in a lot of arguments. I don't have the time. I will just block you out if you're anti left wing, i.e. if you're not conservative and you want to argue with me. I have too much work to do is the main reason. I am the personality type that genuinely would entertain more conversation, but I don't so much anymore because I just am busy. Alrighty, thank you.